Currently volunteering at the Loop. What are the aims behind drug safety testing work that the Loop does for people that don't really know?
Yeah, so a big part of it really is to give like really honest, straight up information with people that are using drugs. So it's not about going around saying to people, you shouldn't use drugs, just say no. It's about saying if you do choose to do it, and we're not advising you do, but if you do choose to do it, this is everything you need to know to reduce the risk as much as possible. And a lot of the interactions you have, so like a lot of people's like gut reaction to drug safety testing, if they're not aware of it, they can be like, oh my god, you're promoting drug use. You're saying to people, you use drugs, we'll test them and then it'll be fine. But if they actually came along to an intervention and saw like the process of drug safety testing, they'd see that a lot of it is around saying, okay, do you know what you're doing? Like almost like testing the individual, saying, right, what do you know about MD and how it interacts with alcohol? Like, you tell me what you know. Okay, well, do you want to know a bit about how alcohol and MD interacts? And they'll go, yeah, sure, yeah, tell me. And you can say, well, this, and this. And you go, all right, cool, maybe I'll drink less when I take MD today then. So it's about like giving people information that can change their pattern of drug use at the festival and reduce the likelihood of them having a problematic experience or relationship with it. And it's not about glorifying drugs or saying to people, oh, your result came back really pure, well done. You know, it's not about that. In fact, it's about saying your result came back really strong and this is why you need to be cautious and careful around that. Like, this is what you need to know if somebody's going to take it.
Is there actually any, or have you seen any effective results from drug safety testing?
Yeah, absolutely. Like whenever I've volunteered for the Loop, there's loads of interactions where people have said, I'm going to consume this drug differently to I would prior to this conversation. Like loads and loads of evidence of that happening. Like I think if someone is willing, I mean it's difficult then, there's a bit of like there's a bit of an issue in a way with drug safety testing in that if someone's willing to take the time out to come in and have their drugs tested, it's likely that individual is probably going to be more cautious than people that don't want to get it tested. Do you see what I mean? There's like a mentality that exists with getting your drugs tested, which is like, I want to make sure I'm okay, I want to know what I'm doing. Whereas the issue with drug safety testing and the bit that sometimes misses, it's all the other people that just think, I don't really care, I'm just going to do whatever, and like I'm really bothered about testing. So there is a bit of a bias from working in drug safety testing where you see a lot of people who want to be responsible, but that's demonstrated from walking through the door. But having said that, I've seen people come in and learn a lot just through a really basic interaction. Like learn a lot around a drug that they're about to take a vast amount of, or a drug that they've been taking for years and years that they didn't know beforehand. So yeah, I've definitely got loads of anecdotal evidence of it having a positive impact.
So do you think it should be made a permanent feature at all festivals and like events?
Yeah, absolutely. Like why is it not? I mean, you think about what's going on in festivals. Anyone who goes to a festival sees drug use. I mean, it depends on the festival you go to as to its prevalence, right? But it's rare for someone to go to a festival and not see at some point illicit use of drugs, even if it's just a NOS canister on the floor. But like you go to Glastonbury, you'll smell people smoking weed, you'll definitely see people doing lines in the crowd. You go to Shangri-La, you'll definitely see people doing pills and dropping MD. Like it's just a really, really common occurrence, right? So when that's happening and when the measures and policies you've got to prevent that aren't working, which they're clearly not because people are so obviously doing drugs in festivals, when you get to that point, I think it's really important that rather than like moralistic views and tendencies being at the forefront of policy decisions, it should be common sense, right? And like a value that everybody should have, which is to make sure everyone else around them's all right. Like we should all, even the most foul of people that you come across in society will have that value in them somewhere of like, I want to make sure the people that I care about are okay. So like everyone's got that in them, and I think when you come to that conclusion that the policies that we've got to prevent drug use in festivals aren't working, then you need something which reduces the harm as much as possible. And for me, one of the most sensible ways of doing that is drug safety testing. Now, I don't think it's as simple as just having the Loop at all the festivals, because like I said before, a lot of people who go to festivals don't want to go to drug safety testing. So to give you an example of like numbers, we did Boomtown not last year, the year before, and there's like 80,000 people at Boomtown, right? And Boomtown, I don't know if you've been to Boomtown, but it is pretty solid for drugs. Like it's pretty hardcore. There's loads of drugs everywhere, everyone's doing drugs, it's pretty normal. And we tested like 1,000 samples, which is amazing. It's really good, but it's still only 1,000, and there's 79, there's 79,000 people or whatever who haven't walked through the tent. So it's still only a really small percentage. And again, there are lots of strengths in drug safety testing in that by testing just those 1,000 samples, those drugs will be used by thousands more because the baggie might be passed around 6 people. So it's more than just 1,000 people that we've had some level of effect on. But we can test a pill, realise it's really strong, and put a message out that thousands of people will see. So it grows beyond the 1,000. But for me, it shouldn't just solely be about drug safety testing. It should be about the festival itself taking measures to educate people at point of entry and throughout the stay in the festival around what sensible drug use looks like, right? So there should be leaflets, promotional materials, advertising the the drug testing service, and then other stuff that warns people, just stay hydrated, don't double drop, take a quarter or crush dab weight, like loads of harm reduction advice for people throughout the festival. And also the artists and the festival organisers need to take some responsibility for what happens in their festival and use their positions of power and influence to promote it. So for example, one thing we did at Boomtown is we've got an artist, Beans on Toast, who Scarlett's a big fan of actually. She can't get enough of him. To go on the main stage and sort of say in front of thousands of people, right, there's some drug safety testing here, and it's really important that everybody is aware of it, because those of you that are doing drugs need to do so as safe as possible. I'm not encouraging you to do it, but you need to know the facts about it. So this is where it is, and this is how you can access it. So that's really positive. When festival organisers say we're going to go one step beyond just letting the Loop or any other service just exist quietly in a corner, we're going to get our artists to stand on a stage and say, you should be going there, that would be a good thing for you to do. So yeah, to answer your question, it's imperative that festivals start recognising the importance of drug safety testing, although I could talk for hours about why that's way more complex than that, and that narrative doesn't cut through. But yeah, it's imperative that they do, but they need to go a lot further than that as well.
So what more do you think can be done to kind of win these young people over, to prove to them that it's not so much of a bad thing? Because I'm assuming most young people would think that you're going to be criminalised for taking this. Do they know what happens when you take it to a drug safety testing tent?
I think you allude to one of those things, and that is artists encouraging, and artists saying, look, this is the right thing to do. This is, if you are going to choose to do drugs, this is how you should be doing them. You should be doing them with all the accurate knowledge and information that you can possibly get. So that helps. So that comes with lots of complexities. So I do the volunteering at Loop, but my main job here at Voltfast is to lobby politicians and the media on drug reform more generally, and wider reform. So we spend a lot of time speaking to people about these issues, and including some celebrity type characters being why don't you come out on this issue, why don't you talk about this issue? And for them, they're a brand, right? They're literally a walking brand. So saying to them, you need to stand on stage and say X, Y, Z about drug testing, they're immediately thinking, well, what about all my sponsors? What about all the money I get from X, from Y? I've got to be really careful. And there's a hesitance and a reluctancy for artists or just influencers to put themselves in those positions, because there's not really that movement that exists in the UK, so they see themselves as vulnerable. But it would help. The other thing that would help is levels of advertisement and honesty around what drug safety testing involves, and saying, look, it's not nothing to do with the police, you're not going to get in trouble. When the Loop operates in a festival, we'll have an area that the police can't come into, or an agreement with that, don't come wandering around here, and they do stick to it. And the police like drug safety testing, because it takes, an important thing to remember about drug safety testing is that the sample that you hand in for testing is destroyed, so it technically reduces the amount of drugs on site. So police are alright with that. They're not against, most police are not against drug safety testing at all. They like it. They don't want to spend their time, because remember, the police are the people that will get called to these incidents and see these kids and think, this is terrible, I don't want to see this happening. So police are pretty supportive of it, but there generally could be more advertisement and awareness. But I think that's something that just comes culturally as well, that once drug safety testing and other methods of harm reduction become the norm, it will naturally filter out into wider society, so it'll be talked about more in the news. You might see it in popular culture and popular media. It would just naturally become more of a thing that people are aware of.
Yeah, and I suppose then, in the eye of the law and kind of government and stuff like that, where does drug safety testing stand there? Are they, like you said, the police are usually for it because they want to see reduction of deaths and harm. So where does the government stand really? Would they want to make it a common thing?
It's a complicated position. So Nick Hurd, who was speaking as the drugs minister, he's the police and just police and crime minister, but he was sort of speaking on behalf of the drugs minister, and that was not last year, the year before, said that drug safety testing is an issue for local councils and local areas. It's not a governmental decision. So that basically handed power to local authorities to grant it and say, this is legal, this is fine. Well, this is, we are fine with this. But it's still a little bit murky, it's still unclear, and it's even more complicated because about 3 months ago, Ad Action, which is a really well-known drug treatment service, one of the biggest drug treatment services in the country, they have started drug safety testing in a city. I can't remember where it is now, but it's down south, doing like city centre testing, so people can go in, get their drugs tested. It's not at a festival, it's literally just in a drug service. But they were given a licence by the Home Office. The Loop don't have a licence. So there's this weird precedent been set where, is it still okay for the Loop to test at festivals without a licence? Because the Home Office have granted Ad Action a licence to test, which is a bit, you know what I mean, like that. A Loop haven't needed that before. So it is quite a grey area, it's quite murky. No one's really sure what is and isn't all right when it comes down to it. But the practice of the testing itself is legal in that the individual comes in with the sample, hands it over and puts it in a bag, so it's not handled by the person who collects it, and then that's destroyed, right? So in that respect, it is legal because it's destroyed at the end and it's handed over to the police.